Secondary sources. Secondary sources are an important part of sociological research. They come in a wide range of forms. The key point is that the data has already been published. It can be existing sociological studies, official government papers and statistics, letters, diaries, novels, photographs, newspaper articles, television recordings, family histories, and so on. This podcast will consider secondary data in general, then it will consider official statistics, and finally it will consider documents. So, why do sociologists use secondary data? For the sociologist starting out on a research project, it is important to study existing data to avoid repetition and to be as informed as possible at the start of the research. In a recent interview, Jock Young explained that before he started his classic study on drug taking, he was able to read all the existing studies. He does not believe that this is possible today due to the vast range of research in this field. However, a broad study of the existing knowledge and research is vital if the research is to generate new knowledge and understanding. For some sociologists, using secondary data is the only possible way to do their research. Anderson used data from the Preston census to look at household structure in the mid-19th century and research potential changes in family form. Because the subjects of the study were already dead, using secondary data was the only possible way to conduct the research. There can be strong financial incentives for using secondary data. It can be much cheaper for the researcher to use published sources than to visit many places and collect the data first-hand. Also, if the researcher is studying illegal activities, then using already published sources can be a much safer way to proceed. Finally, groups may not want to be researched, so the researcher may have to rely on data that is already published. Sociologists can put together a wide range of published data in a meta-study, as David Smith did in his study of health of ethnic minorities. Using government data, small-scale studies, and earlier sociological work, he was able to conclude that the poorer health of ethnic minorities was the result of poverty, rather than genetic, cultural, and dietary differences. These then are the advantages of using secondary data, but there are substantial disadvantages also. The data may be flawed. It was written or collected for a specific purpose, not for sociological research, so the sources may be biased. People writing letters and diaries are expressing their own personal point of view. This could be a commonly held view or totally unique. Official statistics reflect government actions and policies, so for example in the area of high unemployment, people may seek to acquire an incapacity benefit rather than unemployment benefit because it brings in more money. Thus they will be counted as disabled, not unemployed. The changes in categorization of social class make comparisons difficult over time. Furthermore, the data may be incomplete, meaning that the information which the sociologist seeks may only be partially available. There is no logical reason why the information which is not written for sociological research should provide everything the researcher is interested in. Now we come to official statistics. Many organizations publish statistics, but official statistics are published by the government and are a byproduct of the processes of running the country. Planners need to know how many children are born in order to plan education, housing, leisure facilities, and so on. Thus the government collects information on most areas of life, from births, marriages and deaths, to educational achievements, health and welfare, crime, and many, many more. There is a census every 10 years, where all households in the country must complete forms by law. There are social surveys such as the General Household Survey and the New Earnings Survey. Results are made available through the National Office of Statistics, and they publish an annual report called Social Trends. These sources are available free or at very low cost to the researchers. Official statistics provide an invaluable source of information to sociologists. They are collected regularly, using national samples, researching on a far larger scale than a sociological study could afford to use. Longitudinal studies may last for many years. Thus, comparisons can be made over time and can be used to measure the results of changing social policies. The information is collected by professional statisticians, so standards are high. However, there are significant problems with data provided by the government, as it may reflect political processes. the government decides which statistics they want to collect, so some crucial areas may be neglected. Also, whilst a government may try to reduce unemployment by making work available, it can also change the definition of unemployment to exclude people who would previously have been counted, an accusation labelled at the government in the 1980s. Crime statistics are a major problem. The Home Office publishes figures on police, court and prison activity, but there is a dark figure, the number of crimes which are not reported to the police, and the level of reporting depends on the type of offence. Reporting is highest for car theft. Over 90% of those are reported, presumably so the owner can make an insurance claim. However, reporting of domestic violence and rape is much lower, for totally understandable reasons. It is also true that not all crime reported to the police is recorded by them. Data on offenders processed by the courts only deals with those who have been caught. The most successful criminals aren't in prison. Some of the gaps in our knowledge are filled by the British Crime Survey, which interviews a large sample of people to see if they've been victims of crime in the previous year. Figures show that in 2002, 42% of all crimes were reported to the police, and the police recorded 60% of those reported to them. On the basis of these figures, about 3/4 of crimes are not included in the crime statistics. Because crime statistics are the result of a series of social processes, they are believed by interpretive sociologists to be socially constructed. That is, they do not reflect any objective reality. Interpretive sociologists believe that sociology should try to understand the social meanings given to events such as crimes. On the other hand, Marxists believe that official statistics are part of ruling class ideology, a tool to benefit the capitalist classes and keep them in power. Thus, data which supports capitalism is collected and published, and data which would reveal exploitation and oppression is either not collected or is not published. Now we come to documents. Sociologists recognize 3 different types of documents: public documents, personal documents, and historical documents. Each will now be considered in turn. Public documents are published by a range of organisations, including government departments, welfare agencies, businesses and charities. They include minutes of council meetings, Ofsted reports on schools, published business accounts and records of parliamentary debates. Personal documents include biographies and autobiographies, letters, diaries, photo albums and family videos. They are essentially personal accounts of people's lives in depth and detail, and reveal how individual people experience the world around them. These have validity, a real plus for interpretivists, but personal views can be both biased and unique. Historical documents are public or personal documents from the past. They are often the only source of information, but bear all the problems of documents from the present, without the availability of the sort of balancing data which could be used with current documents. Scott suggested we need to apply 4 tests to historical documents. First, authenticity. Is the document real or fake? The Hitler diaries were declared real by prominent historians, only to be found out later as fakes. Secondly, credibility. Is the document believable, or is the author lying or inflating his own importance? Thirdly, representativeness. Is the document typical? Only a few documents survive. Some government documents remain unpublished for 30 years. Some may never be published. In the past, only a small percentage of the population could read and write, so we're reliant on their records, and the poor only have a voice through them. Fourthly, meaning. The document has to be read and interpreted. It may be written in a foreign language. It may represent a different culture, and there is no guarantee that the sociologist's interpretation will match that of the document's author. Paulson suggested that there are 3 ways to deal with documents systematically in a process of content analysis. In formal content analysis, this is done numerically. For example, in the 1970s, Lobban counted the number of girls in stereotypical female roles in children's reading schemes. Her method was adapted by Best in the 1990s and applied to a wider range of children's books. Positivists see this as objective data, but interpretivists argue that this does not show what the document means to the reader. Thematic content analysis looks for themes and ideology which are the basis of the document. Thus, the Glasgow Media Group analysed TV news broadcasts over a number of years, including a study of the miners' strike and later work on the First Iraq War and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Soothill and Wolby studied reporting of sex crimes, including rape, in the early 1990s. Textual content analysis looks at the wording of a document to see how it encourages a particular interpretation of the text. However, content analysis can be criticised as a sociologist's interpretation rather than the author's or the reader's, and audience research suggests that audiences actively respond to the information they're given. Overall, then, the majority of researchers use secondary data either at the start of their research to inform themselves about the subject area or as their main research method. There are many advantages of the method, such as relatively low cost and a wide range of information available. Personal documents give in-depth data about people's experiences and encourage empathy. However, there are substantial problems also. These include the way the processes involved in constructing the statistics impact on the final data and the problems of interpretation in analysing documents.